Everyone's telling you to think positive, repeat mantras, reprogram your thoughts. But here's something few dare to say. Maybe the voice inside your head isn't your friend, and maybe the real breakthrough comes not from saying more, but from finally being quiet. Sounds strange? That's because it is. And that's exactly why it works. Your inner dialogue is relentless, narrating, worrying, judging, planning. It convinces you that this chaos is normal. But if you're the one hearing the thoughts, aren't you something deeper than them? This simple question has shattered illusions for thousands. Because when you stop talking to yourself, something powerful happens. That's when you begin to hear you. Not your programming, not your fears, but the awareness behind it all. And it's in this silence that transformation truly begins. If this kind of truth hits home for you, take a second and subscribe. This space was made for minds like yours that crave more than surface-level advice. Because what we're about to explore next might just undo everything you thought you knew about personal growth. You ever notice how loud your mind gets when everything outside is quiet? That internal chatter, always judging, analyzing, comparing. It's like a roommate you never invited in. It comments on how you look, rewrites every conversation you had, and rehearses future disasters. Most people live their whole lives obeying that voice, never questioning where it comes from. And yet, it's not even you. It's just noise with attitude. What's worse, this voice pretends to protect you. It says, don't do that, you'll embarrass yourself, or you're not good enough. And the more you listen, the more it tightens the cage. Some people call it overthinking. Others call it self-awareness. But let's be real, it's mental handcuffs. That's why so many never feel free, even when everything around them says they should be. Now here's the plot twist. If you can hear that voice, then you are not that voice. You're the one listening. And that changes everything. But to meet the one who listens, to meet yourself, you'll need to learn something most people avoid their entire lives. Silence freaks people out. The moment there's no music, no phone, no conversation, they panic. Why? Because silence exposes the truth. It strips away the background noise and forces you to face the raw version of yourself. But here's the secret nobody told you. Silence isn't empty, it's where the magic lives. Inside that space, without the endless inner dialogue, something incredible begins to happen. Your nervous system slows down, your breathing softens, and for the first time in a long time, you hear yourself. Not the mental noise. The real you. That's why the power of silence is so underrated. It's not about muting the world, but unlocking your own. Want a practical start? Try 5 minutes a day. No phone, no podcast, just you and the stillness. Sit under a tree. Take a walk without earbuds. Drink tea without scrolling. In that quiet, you'll start noticing things you've never seen. Your breath, your thoughts, your tension. That's where the shift begins. And here's the funny part. The more you practice silence, the louder your awareness gets. You start catching the nonsense your mind spits out. You start laughing at your own overreactions. That's when talking to yourself starts to change. It becomes intentional, not reactive. And when it becomes intentional, it becomes powerful. So maybe, just maybe, silence isn't something to fear. It's a doorway. And once you walk through it, something unexpected starts to stir, something that's been waiting patiently beneath all the noise. Ever watch your mind think? Not what it thinks, but the act of thinking itself. It's wild. You're in the shower, and suddenly a voice says, don't forget to reply to that email. Then, why did I say that yesterday? And next, what if they don't like me? And you just watch. It's like an endless mental theater on autoplay. Now, pause for a second. Who is doing the watching? Because if you can observe your thoughts, then you're clearly not your thoughts. That's a game-changing realization most people never make. They spend years tangled in thoughts, identify with every fear, every judgment, every mental spiral, without realizing there's a calm observer behind it all. That observer, it's not emotional. It doesn't panic or overthink. It just sees. Think of it like the sky, always present, no matter how many clouds pass by. And the thoughts, they're just weather, temporary, ever-changing, but never who you truly are. You want to meet this observer more often? Start labeling your thoughts instead of believing them. There's worry. There's a judgment. There's doubt. Suddenly, you're not in the storm. You're watching it. And that shift alone, that's where the law of attraction starts to really work for you, not against you. Because once you realize you're not the voice, but the awareness behind it, you gain access to a deeper power, the power of silence, clarity, and choice. And with that power comes something even more liberating. Most people live as if every thought is a command. I'm tired. So they give up. I'll never be rich. So they stop trying. It's like handing the steering wheel of your life to a drunk backseat driver. But here's the truth bomb. Not every thought is worth your attention. In fact, most of them are just echoes from the past. Disidentifying from your thoughts doesn't mean ignoring them. It means observing without reacting. Imagine seeing a mean comment online. If you believe it, it stings. But if you know it's just noise, you scroll right past. That's what happens when you treat your own thoughts like commentary, not commandments. Here's a simple exercise. Next time your mind says something harsh, ask yourself, would I say this to a friend? If not, it doesn't deserve a seat at your table. That's the power of silence at work. You create space between stimulus and reaction, and in that space, you find peace, freedom, sanity. You'll notice something wild, too. The less you believe every thought, the less intense they become, like turning the volume down on a radio. Suddenly, the static fades, and you can hear the real signal. Your intuition, your values, your vision. That's where the law of attraction actually begins to align with who you are, not who your mind pretends you are. And once you experience this detachment, even for a second, you start craving it. Because compared to the storm of thoughts, being the sky feels like coming home. And what you discover next, well, it changes how you see everything. The mind is like a lake during a storm, full of waves, splashing in every direction, reflecting nothing clearly. You look into it, and all you see is distortion, chaos, fragments of yourself. That's what happens when your mind is constantly stirred by thoughts. But let that lake settle, and suddenly, clarity returns. You see the sky. You see you. This is why ancient traditions always point us back to stillness. Not because silence is trendy, but because it reveals truth. When your mind is calm, you don't need to figure everything out. Answers come on their own. Think about how often your best ideas show up after you stop trying. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. And then there's a heart, often dismissed, yet deeply wise. While the mind analyzes, the heart knows. It doesn't argue. It simply feels. It doesn't overthink. It understands. And when you let your awareness drop from head to chest, even just for a moment, the world softens. Judgments fall away. Compassion steps in. One metaphor I love. The heart is like a fireplace in winter. You can huddle close, warm your hands, and simply be. No explanations, no solutions, just presence. That kind of energy transforms everything it touches. It's the power of silence, glowing from within. And it's always been there, waiting. You want a practical way to access the space? Place a hand on your chest. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Then ask, what's true for me right now? Not what you should feel, not what others expect, but what's real. That simple habit reconnects you to something ancient and honest. Because once you start seeing your mind as a surface and your heart as a depth, you begin to realize transformation was never about adding more. It's about returning to what was always there, underneath it all. Most people speak to themselves in a tone they'd never use with someone they love. Harsh, cold, demanding. And they wonder why they feel drained, anxious, or small. But here's the truth. Self-compassion isn't weakness, it's strength. It's giving yourself the grace to be human, without apology. Think of it like this. If a child came to you crying, would you yell at them? Of course not. You'd kneel down, listen, maybe offer a warm hug. Now imagine that child as your inner world, scared, confused, or overwhelmed. What would happen if you started treating that part of you with kindness instead of criticism? That's where gratitude steps in. It shifts the lens. Instead of focusing on what's missing, you begin noticing what's already good. Not perfect, just good. The warmth of sunlight, the taste of coffee, the breath in your lungs. These aren't cliches, they're anchors. They pull you out of the mental storm and into the present moment. Here's a challenge. Write down 3 things every night that you're grateful for. Small, ordinary things. Do it for a week. Watch how your inner voice softens. Watch how your energy changes. That's the law of attraction responding. Not to fake positivity, but a genuine appreciation. Compassion and gratitude aren't spiritual fluff. They're survival tools for a chaotic mind. They reconnect you to your heart, and they make silence feel safe instead of scary. Because once you learn to sit with yourself in kindness, you stop trying to escape. And when you stop running, healing begins. And that healing, it's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply says, "You're okay." And from that place, the journey begins to shift again, from survival to transformation. Everyone wants a breakthrough, a moment where everything clicks, life changes, and the clouds part. But that's not how real transformation works. It's not an explosion. It's a series of quiet decisions, subtle shifts, choosing presence over panic, awareness over autopilot. And most days, that choice isn't glamorous. It's gritty. You won't always feel like you're evolving. In fact, there will be days when your mind screams, "Nothing's changing." But those are the moments that matter most. Because every time you notice a thought and don't react, that's growth. That's breaking the cycle. That's stepping into the power of silence. Again and again. Think of transformation like carving a statue. You don't see the masterpiece at first, just a block of stone. But with each small chip, something new emerges. A softer response here, a deeper breath there, less drama, more peace. And over time, the old version of you becomes unrecognizable. Here's something you can try. Each morning, choose one intention. Today I'll observe more than I react. Or, today I'll pause before I speak. Write it down. Keep it in your pocket. Let it guide your awareness. These micro-commitments are how the law of attraction takes form. Through action, not wishful thinking. It's not about never falling. It's about how fast you get back up. And the more you practice this awareness, the faster you rise. You don't wait for the storm to pass. You learn to dance with it. Because every moment you show up as the observer, you're rewiring your reality. And before you know it, the person you used to be, reactive, scattered, lost in thought, feels like a distant memory. And in their place stands someone calmer, wiser, and ready for something much deeper. Across every wisdom tradition, Buddhism, Christianity, Sufism, Hinduism, there's a golden thread. Silence isn't absence, it's presence. Not emptiness, but fullness. Not boredom, but depth. The power of silence has always been seen as sacred, not because it's quiet, but because in that stillness, something ancient speaks. In Christianity, it's called the still small voice of God. In Hinduism, it's Atman, the eternal self. In Taoism, it's the Tao, the flow of all things. Different names, same truth. Beneath the mind's noise, there's something timeless. And when you sit in silence long enough, you don't just believe in it. You feel it. You don't need to climb a mountain or chant for hours to access this. You just need to pause. Maybe that's lighting a candle before bed, or sitting in your car before going home. In those tiny spaces, something opens, a softness, a warmth, the sense that you're not alone, even when you're by yourself. What's wild is that the more you connect to this quiet presence, the less desperate you become. You stop chasing validation, success, even happiness. You realize it's already here. That shift doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. Because now, you're creating from alignment, not fear. One of the simplest ways to connect? Breathe and listen. Just listen. Not for words, but for the space between them. The heartbeat beneath the noise. That's where the law of attraction becomes real, not as a technique, but as a natural extension of who you are. And when you tap into this kind of silence, the sacred starts showing up in the ordinary. Even the simplest act begins to shimmer with meaning. We're so used to rushing through life that we miss the miracles hiding in plain sight. Drinking coffee becomes a blur. Walking turns into background noise. Conversations feel like checklists. But the moment you add presence, everything shifts. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, not because it changed, but because you did. Take tea, for example. Most people gulp it down while scrolling or talking. But what if you held the cup with two hands, felt its warmth, noticed the steam, tasted each sip? That simple act becomes sacred. A ritual of now. That's the power of silence. Not shutting the world out, but fully stepping into it. When you're present, your senses wake up. Colors become richer. Sounds deepen. Even time feels slower. This isn't some mystical trick. It's biology. When the mind quiets, the body engages. The law of attraction doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you notice. Try this. Pick one daily activity. Brushing your teeth, folding laundry, making breakfast. Do it with full attention for just one day. Feel the texture, hear the sounds, breathe into the moment. You'll be amazed how something boring turns beautiful. Because presence doesn't require new experiences, just a new level of seeing. Present is a form of love, for the task, for the person in front of you, and for yourself. It says, this moment matters. And when that becomes your mindset, even the most mundane days start to glow. Not from outside events, but from within. And from that glow, something even deeper begins to stir. A quiet realization that life, when seen to the heart, has always been more than just survival. The mind is a storyteller. It spins past regrets, future worries, imaginary arguments, a full-time narrator with no pause button. But when you shift your attention to the heart, something changes. The stories slow down. The fear softens. And instead of noise, there's space, warm, quiet space. Your heart doesn't need a backstory to feel. It doesn't argue about logic or probability. It simply senses what's true right now. That's why animals and children feel so calming. They live from the heart, not the head. When you follow that example, you don't become naive. You become real. Living beyond the mind doesn't mean becoming thoughtless. It means using thought like a tool, not a master. You plan when needed, reflect when useful, and then you let go. You return to the power of silence, again and again. And in that return, something incredible unfolds. Peace without reason. Want to try it? Next time your mind's in overdrive, ask your heart, what matters right now? Then breathe. Listen. Maybe it says, rest. Maybe it says, call your mom. Maybe it says nothing, and that's okay too. That silence, it's not emptiness. It's guidance without words. The more you choose heart over noise, presence over patterns, the more authentic life feels. Not perfect, not always easy, but true. And in that truth, the law of attraction aligns effortlessly. Because now, you're not chasing a dream, you're becoming it. And as you step into that version of yourself, one conscious moment at a time, you begin to sense that this isn't the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. Now that you've seen what lives beyond a mental noise, the question is, will you keep feeding the voice that holds you back, or finally listen to the silence that's been calling you? Because deep down, you already know your peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from no longer being controlled by everything. What would happen if, just for today, you chose to observe instead of overthink? To pause before reacting? To speak less and listen more? What might shift in your life if you trusted the quiet voice inside you instead of the loud one in your head? I want to know, have you ever felt this kind of stillness before? Have you ever stopped talking to yourself and felt something deeper take over? Drop your experience in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read. And if this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because this channel isn't about noise, it's about clarity. And your journey is just getting started.